Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah? So, first of all, thanks for the invitation. My name is Alvaro, and yeah, I am today that Microsoft guy. I remember going to events in the past, and every time there was a Microsoft presenter, I just search for the closest door. So please, don't be like me. Anyway, this talk is called AMQP 10 years after. The title you will soon see is a complete lie, but let's not talk about that now. So once upon a time, before many of you were even born, I used to be a RabbitMQ core developer. I wrote the book RabbitMQ in Action, and then at some time, I decided to move on and went to work at Apple doing machine learning. And there I was shocked. There was a world of technology outside Erlang. I didn't know there was these things called Scala, and yeah, I went completely into the dark side. And to this day, I still hate Scala. So it was traumatic experience, I can tell you. And today, depending who you ask, if you ask HR, we are technical program managers at Microsoft. If you ask the community, we are developer advocates, whatever you name it. We are in between developers, product management, product groups, and so on. And then writing, yes, I tend to write from time to time for the ACM. Actually, today, if they are on schedule, there should be a new article on the ACM about large language models and semiotics that I wrote. Otherwise, I guess it will be on Monday. They even made me do a video for that, so I love them, not. Then, okay, you know RabbitMQ in Action. For a long time, it was the book. And that little rabbit you see there, actually, I saved that rabbit because Manning came with a wonderful idea to have a butcher on killing a rabbit on the cover. That was going to be the original RabbitMQ in Action cover. No. Yeah, okay. And then I write also about linguistics and all this other stuff. You can find a lot of articles on Increment, on that magazine. But anyway, enough about that. Some of you, the younger in the audience, probably know about 10 years after the band, and when they say, baby, I'm coming home, so that's where I got the title for this talk, because like it or not, RabbitMQ was my little baby 10 years ago. I gave talks all over the world, wrote articles, actually worked on Rabbit, writing client code, you name it. So yeah, it was a great part of my life back then. So in this talk, to quote a famous Formula One journalist, a short view back to the past. 30 years ago, Niki Lauda told us. I don't know if you know that meme, but he's a guy that likes to ask very old questions about the past. And what I can tell you is that today I understand this joke from The Simpsons when Grandpa Simpson says, I used to be with it, but they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what is it seems weird and scary to me. So Carl, please stop talking about streams. They are scary. RabbitMQ, classic queues, okay? Please. No, don't go this is too in the future, okay? Like performance, what? So yeah, yesterday I got a question during the speaker dinner that I brought into the keynote. I'm very Microsoft, you see, I brought it into a meeting. So you start seeing Teams pop-ups there. Anyway, I was asked, what was the last commit you sent to RabbitMQ, okay? And the last commit actually wasn't really code, but it was more about the RabbitMQ internals. I don't know if you know that repo, but this repo has a funny story because one time I go to Russia to present about RabbitMQ, and the audience comes to me, hey, what you present is super basic, we know all that here, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Next year I go and present the RabbitMQ internals, and they're like, we didn't get any word that you said, so I don't know. Where do you want it to be? Anyway, that repo, the RabbitMQ internals, the idea was, before I left Rabbit, to kind of dump the knowledge I had, because in a way, I was the last link between the new team that was being formed at Rabbit and the old original RabbitMQ team, which I will show or talk about later. And this comes from one of my, or the idea behind this, actually, comes from one of my favorite papers or articles out there by Peter Naur. Anybody from Denmark can correct my pronunciation, but he's a Turing Award winner, and he's famous for the Bacchus-Naur form. And he wrote this article, Programming as Theory Building, which basically is like when you build a theory about a program, like in the case of RabbitMQ, at least back then, it used to be an implementation of AMQP. So then you knew you had that channel, messages came through the channel, then they were routed to an exchange. The exchange will try to find queues. There will be some mechanism to get the message into the queue, then storage will be taken into account, maybe HA replication, blah, blah, blah. But in this schema that you can trace a message through RabbitMQ, there are a lot of micro decisions, and those micro decisions, they do, like what Peter Naur says, is that this decision, they don't live in any of the code artifacts. They don't live in the code itself, they don't live in the documentation, they don't live in the tests or compiler flags, I don't know. We try to make them as explicit as possible, but maybe you find a method that says AMQP immediate, not implemented. What's the reason for that? Who knows? Well, there used to be a reason. It was performance. It wouldn't be performant in Rabbit to do that, back then at least. Maybe with streams, everything is possible now. I don't know. But yeah, the idea of this repo was to have as much of an explanation as possible about how, at least back then, RabbitMQ was working. And then another thing that I want to highlight, that was a culture, again, I cannot speak for current development. I hope it is even better than what was back then. If something wasn't documented, then it wasn't a feature. And for me, many open source projects and even like private company projects, they need to learn from this type of definition of done. Like many times developers implement something, and then how do you use it? Where there is an example, go dig into the test if you find tests and so on. And what I found at Rabbit, it was that, and for me it helped me a lot in my future jobs, let's say, is that when you develop any feature, not only had to work, it had to be documented, and documented in a way that will be presented in the official documentation, and knowing that anything you do will be used in an open API. So whatever you change to Rabbit it is such a massive project with so many users and so on, that you enable one configuration line, and that configuration line for sure will be used by somebody to break something. And one of my greatest and latest discussions inside RabbitMQ was when the credit test parameters landed into the config files. I was completely against having those parameters in the config file, but they are there, and I have no idea, maybe the Cloud MQP guys know more, how this has affected Rabbit in the future. And yes, I should have get a commission by PagerDuty, because I'm it's pretty clear to me that many of those times RabbitMQ crashed is because something I left back then. I was the originator of lazy queues, which the worst name ever you can choose for a feature. But I mean, I was into purely functional data structures. Come on, haven't you read Okazaki? Like RabbitMQ, don't you have Okazaki in your homepage of Cloud MQP? Please, like put it there. Anyway, so lazy queues actually it came from a time where users, maybe it is today the case, hopefully not, where users will complain about something not working in the RabbitMQ mailing list, and the default answer was, you are using RabbitMQ wrong. It was never our fault as developers. And one time I say, okay, there was this guy complaining about performance. I say, okay, just tell me how I can reproduce this with the benchmark tool. I ran the benchmark tool, kind of simulating the workload this person had. And he said RabbitMQ will crash when there were no more consumers, like let's say consumer crash overnight or whatever. I managed to run RabbitMQ for 40 seconds and it crashed. So I went through the whole code base and I removed the queue from RabbitMQ because there was no queue anymore. I mean, I didn't do that, but you can imagine the queue in RabbitMQ was not doing its job correctly. So trying to fix that thing that discovered memory leaks inside the virtual machine, the storage system was not optimal, let's put it that way. LazyQ tried to solve that. Of course, it probably brought newer problems in the future, but the idea at least was to address that thing. Then the sharding exchange. The sharding exchange, the idea of that legacy code was to remove or address when the Erlang VM does pinning in a process. And this was made in a time when modifying the core of RabbitMQ wasn't really an approved thing inside the core team. You either build everything around AMQP and the current classes, or not classes, but Erlang modules, or that feature is a no. So sharding, I convinced Simon back then, Simon McMillan, to add one function. I say, hey, Simon, please, I add this function, like the RabbitMQ interceptors, to the channel, and we can have sharding. And you say, what's the deal with sharding? 10 years ago, there was a marketing machine, like really killing the marketing space in messaging, which was Kafka. So you know how they are the only broker that solves everything in the only perfect way, et cetera, et cetera. And with Alexis Richardson, we were like, as they say in gaming, we were malding. We were losing our hair over all this. And sharding basically implemented one of those super unique use cases that Kafka had, which actually was just a bunch of queues behind an exchange with one consumer per queue. There was nothing magic in that, but okay, you want parity with that, there you have it. So I heard this thing is being deprecated, please take it out. And then, yeah, this is another one, delay messages exchange. You know, like I was talking with one of the, can I say sales guys from VMware? But you go to customers, and customers have heard things, and they want things. And they won't give you business if you don't have that thing. So delay messages exchange. You need to delay messages? Yeah, there you have it. Could it be better? Could it be improved? For sure. But what is the point to release the most perfect delay message store if maybe nobody's actually using it? So at least throw that in the waters, see if it can even swim. If people start actually asking, okay, let's put engineering effort behind it. Otherwise, cool story, bro. You can check that on your customer check notes or whatever they are. Yeah, and as I said earlier, the core was a bit untouchable. So again, don't shoot the messenger. There are reasonings or theories behind why some things were implemented there. And of course, many more, but our friend JSP deleted my name from the RabbitMQ GitHub. So if you see me, I'm not a committer, I'm gone. I don't know if it was personal or just a migration of the Git repository, but I'm gone. Take that picture. Yeah. Anyway, enough of crying. Let's cry a bit more. In the beginning, Shanghai 2010. So before moving to Switzerland, where I currently live, I wanted to live in a place without network partitions, like a perfect place. That's Switzerland. Outside Switzerland, you know, it's chaos. I come to Germany, I don't know what is going on. But in Switzerland, trains run on time, packets arrive on time. Everything's on time. Paxos works in Switzerland, for example. So, yeah, you know, a lot of papers come from the ETH, the ETH. So, yeah. Anyway. So, in 2010, do you know that guy, Francesco, of course? He visited Shanghai and was meeting with the Erlang user group from Shanghai. And I saw it there on the web. I contacted the guy between me and Francesco. And yeah, we got that meeting. And after this dinner, I went, and Francesco actually reminded me that we were paying for him there, but I will have to pay the food in London. I'm pretty sure he was getting like a better exchange rate in that thing. Anyway, he told me after, when we talked, focus on RabbitMQ. That was his message back then. And he invited me to talk at the Erlang Factory. That was, I used to be young. And this guy, I don't know who in the room knows who is that person, even if from the back of his head. But I don't know, somebody died. A RabbitMQ cluster crashed. You know who that is? That's Michael Bridgen, one of the original RabbitMQ core developers. And he was the creator of the Node.js client and many other things. So I go there. Actually, there I meet Alexis Richardson, the original CEO of RabbitMQ. I also met with Matthew Sackman, which was the person that first wrote the first Rabbit implementation. And the idea is because we were writing the book, RabbitMQ in Action, I actually wrote Alexis at some point, March 31st, 2010, 2:55 a.m. I don't know what I was doing at that time. And Alexis replied, like, I say, do you have a book? Because I was on the IRC and everybody was asking all the time the same question. This was back then when you need to, when talking about RabbitMQ, was talking about the Erlang cookie. I don't know who remembers the Erlang cookie, but that was a topic that was coming every single day on IRC. So I told Alexis, hey, why don't we have a book and get rid of this issue? So when I'm in London, Alexis, we were going to interview the RabbitMQ team, and suddenly Matthew, the original RabbitMQ dev, storms into the room. This is VMware in front of the Tate Museum in London. Matthew stormed into the room saying, you know, these RabbitMQ guys, they are coming into the building. They want to ask you questions. I don't want to be there. I don't have anything to answer, blah, blah. I was sitting there. And Alexis said, please meet Alvaro, who is writing the book for RabbitMQ. And anyway, that's the first chapter of the RabbitMQ book. Jason Williams, the other author, kind of conducted the interview, and you have a bit of a history of Rabbit there in the first chapter of the book. But anyway, this is kind of how I ended up in this whole thingy. And for me, the big offering or the big thing behind Rabbit was interoperability. And you can see my first ever talk about Rabbit was at Shanda Innovation. Shanda Innovation was this Chinese company where these guys were already doing Erlang. You remember Mochi Media? Anybody remembers Mochi Media? I'm not that old. So Mochi Media, they did early Erlang development for the gaming world, and Mochi Media got acquired by Shanda. So anyway, I'm going there, presenting Rabbit back then, and basically, I was sharing what I wanted to do since I started working with Q. So before China, I used to work in Uruguay for a company that was selling thousands and thousands of DVDs online, and it has its own queuing system. And when I say its own queuing system, hold on to your seats, because it was written in PHP, backed by MySQL, okay? Like best scenario possible. But anyway, every movie had like screenshots that were taken. So when you go to the website, you see the main one, maybe 5 of them, and you decide which one to buy. So there was a lot of image resizing, and then video conversion, all driven from this PHP thing. And it was pre-CDN era, like we were replicating stuff. Does anybody remember Unison, like OCaml? Because OCaml actually had a production tool called Unison. While all these other programming languages were searching for the killer app, OCaml had Unison, which was like rsync-like type of thing. And what I presented to that group is like, okay, yeah, we have this movie publisher. Anytime there is a new film, we need to convert stuff in XML, do thumbnail generation, call a PHP generator, like we were doing caching, because memcache memcache was risky technology to use, basically. When I came to my boss, hey, but we can use memcache for this. No, that's not approved. So this is how old that is. Anyway, a lot of things trying to talk to each other, and needing to scale, needing real-time data, share information written by different people. You have heard this story a dozen times. And for me, the conclusion was, the solution is AMQP and RabbitMQ. Yeah, right? Let's go, Rabbit. This is exclusive T-shirt that I show my grandsons in 20 years. Anyway, what happened with the AMQP, the multi-protocol protocol, right? So AMQP, let's put my monocular. AMQP started in 2003 by John O'Hara, right, from JP Morgan Chase. And then Imatics Corporation, they do the first implementation in C. I don't know who here remember Peter Hitchens, which he passed away some years ago, but he was the creator of ZeroMQ. So he was one of the first doing the first implementations there. Then at some point, Red Hat creates a Cupid. Like most of the early diagrams on AMQP actually are or were from Red Hat. Good luck with the web to find them today. And then some guys at L-Shift. L-Shift is a kind of consulting firm for finance in around Shoreditch in London. They decide to create Rabbit technologies and implement RabbitMQ. Basically founder was Monadic or Alexis Richardson on Monadic on Twitter, Alexis Richardson in real life. Anyway. And then why I call it the multi-protocol protocol is because we all have heard these numbers 20 times, and these are the numbers that salespeople love to say and repeat, I'm pretty sure. So there is a 0.8 version of the protocol, then there is a 0.9.1 version of the protocol. I think there is also a 0.9 version. There is 0.10, but we don't talk about that. Then there is 1.0, right? RabbitMQ, as you know, is an implementation mostly of 0.9.1 with extensions. At some point, it supported 0.8. So some very early examples that use vhost and so many things are from 0.8, I think. And in the words of Carl Nielsen, everything is legacy, right? And heresy, maybe, not legacy. And then we have the one true protocol, right? Which is 1.0. Okay, so that's kind of the landscape on AMQP and its own, all its versions. So RabbitMQ tries to be an implementation of AMQP. The first version was written in Erlang by Matthew Sackman. I don't know if anybody of you saw him in the early Erlang factories in London. He used to be there. He's also the author of the original HA, high availability ring implementation for Rabbit. And anywhere in the code that you find the word whilst, probably Matthew. Second version was written by Tony Garnold-Jones, but then he left to do a PhD in the US. And then, just to give you some context, when I came to that Erlang factory in 2010, I didn't come to talk about Rabbit. I presented, please stay in your seats, a bridge between PHP and Erlang. So you could make Erlang a PHP node. Please, please. Please, why? Why did you do that? Okay, past Alvaro, why did you do that? Because I could. So what was the point? We wanted to monitor, because we were running CouchDB. Look at all these very famous names. CouchDB, and we wanted to actually listen to what's going on, and yeah, so that was this PHP bridge that could talk to both sides. And when I go to that Erlang factory, I had the whole RabbitMQ team, and I showed them how we implemented a management plugin, not plugin, a management interface or UI for Rabbit, but in PHP. I think that was the drop that was, okay, this is enough. We are going to write our own RabbitMQ management plugin, and that was Simon McMullen, also former Rabbit core dev. Yeah, I guess Simon at the side of PHP was like, yeah, this is enough. And then at some point also, Matthew Sackman did the implementation of HAQs. And as you know, the MQP we learned to love is this one diagram from Red Hat. I would love to link to their website, but it's kind of dead, or it's not there anymore. We learned to work, and basically a major business was built around this protocol. We have Cloud MQP, Erlang Solutions also doing consulting. I could put the Amazon logo there. It's running Rabbit, but I don't know if somebody at Microsoft will maybe knock on my office door. So let's keep those two there. And RabbitMQ became super successful on that version, right? And this is another thing that I think helped, because Rabbit, I wouldn't say earlier on, because there has to be a lot of tiers, but at some point we had the tutorials in multiple languages, which I think is how it should be. Users want to use the product. It doesn't matter which product it is that you are working on. Somebody was asking me, because one of the dev advocates from Cloud MQP, like, what do you do? What is it being an advocate? Or, well, writing examples so people can use your product, that is being an advocate. I don't care if those were written by the core team or by, I don't care. That, because people like to trace limits or line. No, just listen to feedback and incorporate that feedback into the product if it makes sense. Sometimes feedback will come from users, sometimes feedback will come from customers. But imagine a customer trying to adopt RabbitMQ, and then there is no way for them to learn how to use RabbitMQ, teach their developers. And when you have this whole business proposition here, you kind of have a case for Rabbit. If you have two companies that are hosting RabbitMQ, you are telling people, hey, yeah, you are, if we die tomorrow, you can jump to the other guys. They are using MQP, whatever, should be feasible to keep everything alive. And this is a question which, for me, I think is it makes me really proud. I think RabbitMQ, we could say, is one of the most successful Erlang open source projects. I know there was CouchDB, I know there used to be, or is, Jabberdy, but RabbitMQ, I guess, outgrew all kinds of expectations from what was an Erlang prototype back then in 2008, maybe. So, Microsoft. This is the part where we start crying. Or, I don't know. So, 2008. Actually, Alexis Richardson went to a meeting of like not Azure, but like Microsoft architects, something. And he presented these slides, which Brett Cameron, he found them and gave them to me the other day when he learned I was doing this keynote. So Alexis goes to Microsoft and tells them, AMQP working group shares your goals. We want to reduce system integration costs. Like, AMQP will boost competition and accelerate blah, 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 right? We can eliminate vendor lock-in. This is the biggest question I have today. With 0.9.1, didn't vendor lock-in creep back in? Like, how isolated is Rabbit from the world today thanks to that protocol, that legacy or heresy version of the protocol, right? AMQP will let you switch suppliers and spur competition, blah. Unlike WebSphere, TIBCO, who remember what that means? Anyway, and we have .NET. Hey, Microsoft, look, we are friendly. So yeah, messaging everywhere. We want to remove barriers to a liquid service market to grow it. Not interested in rip and replace, blah, blah, blah. And AMQP aims to become the standard for business messaging. So then, people with suits, very expensive suits, they join the AMQP working group. And what happened? Ta-da! Forget about 0.9.1, forget about your lovely exchanges, forget about your queues. That RabbitMQ book, burn it, is obsolete, because AMQP 1.0 is just AMQP 1.0, right? Yeah. But AMQP 1.0 is basically the backbone behind Azure Messaging. And I talked to the product group at Azure Messaging, and I asked them, hey, can you share some numbers from how Azure Messaging is doing or whatever? So prepare your phones. This slide will be shown once and hidden later. So these are the numbers from, oh, these are not the numbers yet. OK, sorry. A bit of preparation. Anyway, sorry. So what is Azure Messaging? Azure Messaging, you have heard Service Bus, Event Grid, Event Hubs, Azure Relay, Queue Storage, SignalR Service, HD Insight, Notification Hubs, Azure IoT Hub, and Azure Web Apps Hub. Wow, ooh, I could breathe now. So, but the approach in Azure is a bit different from Rabbit in the sense that Rabbit is everything under the same broker, and Azure has like Service Bus is the typical queue broker thingy. Event Grid is to fire events about everything that happens on Azure. So somebody creates a virtual machine, you can hook an event grid and have a notification that this happened. Somebody creates an event hub, you will know that. So that's kind of where Event Grid sits in between everything. And Event Hubs is more like for all the high scalability type of streaming services. And there's many more. So those are the things, cool. And they are all, or not all, but most of them are AMQP-based services, AMQP 1.0. And for instance, commitment to that Service Bus protocol is going to be deprecated by 2026. So Azure is AMQP. We are friends, OK? Now the slides. These are the numbers from Microsoft. 5 nines, we run 75,000 virtual machines to run Azure Messaging. 272.5 trillion monthly requests across messaging. 9.9 trillion peak requests a day into messaging. Over 423 petabytes of monthly data volume egressed. 1.67 in German is switching my word order, but 1.67 terabytes per minute written at peak. Azure Stream Analytics is doing 1.1 million job processes per month. Streaming event, 12.65 trillion. 71K or 72K external messaging customers, and all of the top 500 Azure users are all using messaging. So you can say, cool story, bro, why do I care, right? I think we can assume there is a lot of money behind this. And I think people want to have a go at this cake, right? And the more integrated that RabbitMQ is with AMQP 1.0, the less it be a limitation for customers, because a customer, when they have a problem, and this is something sometimes we developers forget, is that customers, they have specific problems and specific tech stacks they're using. So let's say Power BI. If a customer is using Power BI, and then RabbitMQ somehow cannot get the data into Power BI, I mean, I'm pretty sure, I'm highly confident that they will drop RabbitMQ and will stay with Power BI because they are already in Power BI. Find another nice tool with another name, with another brand, it will be the same. Because big companies or companies tend to have deals with a lot of vendors. So if RabbitMQ embraces fully 1.0, this cake is there to be part of it. So, but anyways, is there currently a path between Rabbit and Service Bus or Event Hubs? Yes. Actually, there is this article, How to Integrate Service Bus with RabbitMQ. I wrote it. It's part of the official Azure docs, and it's what's being recommended to our customers. We have a lot of customers that have RabbitMQ somewhere, and they need data in Azure, whether for the analytics platforms, for any kind of tooling that is inside Azure. And thanks to RabbitMQ Shovel, which is a great piece of software, we can have this data replication between Rabbit and Service Bus. By the way, being a RabbitMQ first person, I wrote how to integrate RabbitMQ with Service Bus. Somebody from the product said, no, RabbitMQ goes at the Service Bus got there. Okay? Be careful with your priorities. But it is there, and we have official logs for Rabbit. And now there is a new platform that Microsoft announced at Build in May this year, which is called Microsoft Fabric. I don't know if anybody has heard about Fabric here, but Fabric is, let's say, the all-in-one analytics solution from Microsoft. So you have Synapse inside here. You have, Synapse Data Science, Data Warehouse, real-time analytics, Power BI, Data Factory. You can run Spark notebooks. I don't know, do a lot of things. And you are not like needing to go to Azure, set up an event hub, get the connection string of event hub, connect it to whatever it is you wanted to connect it. No, this is, you click and kind of things magically appear there. But anyway, after a lot of discussions, this is Microsoft, 175,000 people company. I managed to get AMQP into Fabric. So I knew, because I will show you a demo later, but basically I knew they were exposing AMQP, but they were exposing it in the wrong format. And I already had, you see that page I show you here, this one? This one has approximately 900 to 1,000 views per month. So that many people is going to this such niche use case to get these two things together. And this solution requires a conversion of the Service Bus or Event Hub's connection string from Azure into whatever it is that AMQP Shovel requires. So I brought an app that does this conversion that basically is linked from this article. That app gets 2,000 hits per month. So I don't think anybody's like going there to convert connection strings. But anyway, they took my code basically and implemented this thing that now you can see there is Kafka, there is event hubs, and you can get the keys on the RabbitMQ type of format. And to show you a demo, hopefully it works. So this is the interface of Fabric. And if I go to Synapse Real-Time Analytics, first I will create a KQL database, which is where the data of the streaming data will go. I recorded this afternoon, so typing wasn't a thing after having lunch. So I create the database, so there's where the data will live, right? So I go again to Synapse Real-Time Analytics, and now I say create a new event stream, and the event stream will be from RabbitMQ, whatever name you want to have in that thing. So the event stream basically has a source and a destination. You can see many sources, but the one I'm using is called custom app, that basically is exposing an event hub to anybody that wants to connect to this event hub, of course, having the right credentials. So then if you go to the AMQP tab, please go to the AMQP tab. You see that's the endpoint, but that is useless for Rabbit. And this is the one in the AMQP tab that has the thing that Shovel approves. So that's RabbitMQ Shovel. I call it to Fabric. I get that start from that queue, put that thing there. I make sure it's 1.0. And then I need, the entity name is the address in NQP. And there's the Shovel running. So in C#, I wrote like a quick thing that is sending telemetry data to Fabric, or to RabbitMQ and then Shovel to Fabric. So here now, if you go to the center and refresh, Fabric already parsed the data, parsed the columns out of the JSON, and kinda knows how these things looks like. And this is coming all data that is coming from Rabbit. I took a screenshot at some point. And then the KQL database, I create a destination, which will be a table in the KQL database. So now we just need to set up the final, like what is going to be the table name. And here in the schema, it will kind of parse the schema, and you can see first it's wrong because it's by default TXT. But if I choose JSON, it does the conversion. I do the summary. Then I start to kind of do the ingestion into the database. And it will tell you that now there is a related telemetry item for that thing. If you click there, you have the table in the KQL database, and you can start querying this table. So if you can say, like, show me the first 100 rows, whatever. But what I'm doing there is I try to summarize temperature and humidity. I get those results, and then you see it's integrated, build Power BI report. I put a line chart. You can select the humidity and the timestamp. Magic happens. Then I do the same for temperature. And I change some colors, even though I'm colorblind, but I assume people see colors. That's what they told me, at least. So yeah, there you go. And I can save that. I can put a name. And yeah, we succeeded. We have a shareable report. But the point is that many users will be consuming data into RabbitMQ. Maybe they are fine in the current stack. Maybe they want to try some of this tooling that we have on Azure or somebody else. I don't know. This is, I mean, for sure I care if we do business together, but just trying to show the use case. And at the moment, it kind of works thanks to Shovel, but it could be improved. Shovel needs the 1.0 plugin, of course. I don't know if it comes by default when you enable Shovel, or you have to put the 1.0 plugin. I'm not 100% sure. Another thing that please listen to the salespeople, because salespeople are paying your salary. And if a salesperson goes to a customer and they hear the word plugin, the customer say that is not supported by default. I'm buying trouble. Who is going to fire me for putting this thing there? But if you remove the word plugin and you just have 1.0 as the thing, or Shovel, or whatever, everybody's happy. So, messaging that just works. That was the motto, or it is, I guess, still the motto of RabbitMQ. And in a way, we can say that RabbitMQ delivered on its promise. It just works. It became a multi-protocol broker. And we can say it's probably the most deployed open source broker out there. I guess that it's safe to say that about Rabbit. But then AMQP 1.0 happened, right? And yeah, we need to work together into kind of addressing that issue in the future. Because otherwise, how can we tell users that they avoid vendor lock-in with RabbitMQ? And you know, nobody changes their tech stack from one day to another. Nobody will say, oh, bye-bye, cloud. No. But imagine if they say, no, cloud, AMQP, or whatever, because you cannot talk to this other service that already has AMQP 1.0, and you saw the number, 75,000 VMs. So we can safely say biggest AMQP deployment in the world. You probably want to go there somehow, right? And salesperson, they know this. Customers go by what is called checkbox-oriented programming. These are just examples. But what about compliance? Do you support streams? I heard Kafka has streams. They will ask all these kind of things. What about Go? Can I use RabbitMQ with Go? And then you look, Go is not officially. Okay. And they will ask you, can I analyze data with Microsoft Fabric? I'm pretty sure that is the most common question these days, right? So my point is, or the message I wanted to land is like, let RabbitMQ be a use case enabler. Like, RabbitMQ has done great in the past 15 years, and it can be part of that of the upcoming years, because, like it or not, probably Cloud AMQP knows more about this than me. As customers start moving to the cloud, they at some point will say, why I'm using so if, let's say, there is service bus or there is I don't care what, because that is kind of the thing given by the cloud provider, and right? So, but if it is fully integrated, then you're always keeping everybody on board. And some things I've been looking at, this is kind of Nostradamus moment. I don't know if you have heard about semantic kernel. It's like a framework similar to LangChain, but it's like the Microsoft flavor of orchestrating large language models. And there is recently an article about telemetry, because you start running LLMs, and then what even is the LLM doing? What was the prompt? What was the temperature? What is happening that I'm getting this response out of the LLM? Semantic kernel has the concept of loggers. You can plug loggers. So it will be cool if we develop a RabbitMQ logger, and then all this observability could go through RabbitMQ, and You put LLM in your article, you already know you will get views, and RabbitMQ could be part of that solution. Another thing I can see if 1.0 becomes a thing in Rabbit is that Rabbit can be a perfect glue between services, and actually nobody can do that better than Rabbit. I was at a meeting inside at Microsoft, and somebody wanted to kind of do this type of replication, and the person says, yeah, I will write an app that starts grabbing messages from A and send them to no. I say, stop right there. Who is going to maintain that app? How are we going to tell the customer that so-and-so implemented something that will break tomorrow? And Shovel doesn't have those problems. It has some tiny issues that could be addressed when talking to Event Hubs. There is no link credit to accept the delivery. That happens when talking to Event Hubs, not with Service Bus. But I think if we work together on this, great things come out of this epic handshake. Okay, so yeah, that's my keynote. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Alvaro. That was amazing. Did you want to
questions, comments? Yeah.
Thank you, Alvaro. That was great. Thank you.
Thanks.
I just want to make clear that there is absolutely no risk of RabbitMQ dumping the Northern Unwind protocols. All your applications are safe. We are making all protocols more equal, and we're keeping the internal model. That's kind of the main way we're going. So, but thank you for that.
Yeah, I hope we can work together on 1.0. And I mean, I know there is already support. Otherwise, all this demo I showed will not work. That is 0.9.1 talking to 1.0, thanks to Shovel, 100%. But we have some tiny things to bring it up to speed, and yeah, we are all part of the same happy family.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause, and then we will have a closing session.